This is the Barricade HD Rear Bumper with LED fog lights, and it does fit all 2020 and newer Sierra HDs. Now, the Barricade HD will be an appealing rear bumper option for the 2,500 owners out there looking to switch out that factory rear bumper in favor of a burly steel aftermarket option, allowing for more protection and more functionality thanks to the inclusion of the LED cube lights. Now, the Barricade will offer a powder-coated steel design and does come pre-drilled for those factory backup sensors. It can be had off for right around that mid to high $1,100 price point. Now, big features with the Barricade will boil down to protection, functionality, and appearance. So first things first, let's talk protection. And that, of course, is going to be increased due to the thick plate steel build. Definitely up to the task of handling some abuse both on and off-road. Second up, let's talk functionality here. Now, the HD bumper will include things like the step ends, along with the included 3-inch cube lights for extra lighting on the trail or for backing up in those dark parking lots at night. Finally, appearance. And I think we can all agree that these off-road style bumpers, whether front or rear, really do help change up the appearance of the truck in a pretty substantial way. And the same can be said for the Barricade on the table with us here today. All right, moving into construction, and the Barricade starts out as a cold-formed 3mm plate steel build before being finished off in a 2-stage epoxy powder coat to keep that steel looking good for many years to come. Now, the included 3-inch LED cubes will produce a 6K color temperature thanks to the high-powered Cree LEDs that are loaded into an IP67 waterproof housing. Now, the bumper does include cutouts for backup sensors along with cutouts for the trailer plug and license plate lights as well. I also really like that Barricade maintained the step areas on the corners. Definitely makes it easier to put a foot up there. There's a nice little traction surfaces in there as well. And overall, it's just a really attractive looking bumper. Finally, the Barricade does include all of the necessary hardware, brackets, even wiring for the lights themselves to help you get this thing in place. Price point for the Barricade will land around that mid to high $1,100 mark, give or take a bit, putting this in line with other rear bumper options from companies like Weston and Fortis, while coming in a good bit less than options from ADD or some of the other more premium options on the site. As always, a lot to choose from here at American Trucks, so definitely check out the rest of our selection before making your final decision. All right, now we want to shift gears and show you what it takes to get the Barricade installed on your HD at home. Site's going to call it solid yet heavy, 2 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter, taking you a couple of hours or so to complete from start to finish. This thing is heavy, guys, so definitely make sure you have a buddy on hand to help you lift this thing into place while you secure your hardware. But to give you a better idea of how this one might go down in the garage or driveway at home, let's throw it out to the shop for our detailed walkthrough and tool breakdown.
Tools required for this install include an impact gun, a ratchet, an extension, 14mm ratcheting wrench, 18mm wrench, the included Allen wrench, scissors or diagonal cutters, small flathead screwdriver, clip remover tool, some zip ties, zip tie clips, swivel adapter, 10, 13, 18, 19, and 21mm sockets. What's up, guys? Today we're installing a rear bumper on our Sierra, so let's get started. So now first thing we're gonna do is hop underneath our bumper and disconnect our trailer hookup. So I'm gonna take a flathead screwdriver to pry up on this white locking tab, and then we'll press in on the tab and pull back to disconnect it. Now we need to disconnect these 2 camera connectors. Now the button is gonna be on top of this orange part here, so it's a little tight. I'm gonna try to get it with a flathead screwdriver, and if not, we can just pop these clips out and remove it on the other side. And that's not really working out too well, so I'm gonna take that flathead. There's a metal clip on each side here. I'm just gonna press that in and push from the back. So now I've got that one popped out. I'll do the same for the other one. And now with that popped out a little bit, I can angle it down to press in on those tabs. Now we're gonna flip over to the passenger side, and we've got our connector for the bumper harness. We've got a red locking tab here that we need to pull back, and then we can press in on the black tab and disconnect our connector. So now we're going to start disconnecting our bumper. I'm going to start with this little support bracket. We're going to take a 13mm socket to remove this bolt. Now we're going to remove these two nuts with a 18mm socket. I'm using a swivel adapter and an extension to make it a little bit easier. And then the second one, I'm gonna leave on there a few threads. I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side, and I'll grab a buddy to help me remove this, and we'll grab this nut at that time. So now we need to remove our license plate. There's a couple bolts sitting behind here that we need to remove. Just grab a Phillips head screwdriver and remove those two screws. And then that's gonna reveal these two bolts. And we're just gonna take a 13mm socket and remove these two. This is where you wanna make sure that you have a nut threaded on each side here so that this bumper doesn't fall down on you. So now I've got my buddy, we're gonna remove our nuts from each side and pull off our bumper. Now these couple connectors aren't actually a part of the bumper harness, so we're gonna have to pop those out. So we're gonna pull back on the red locking tab with a flathead screwdriver, press in on the black to disconnect it, grab a clip remover tool to pop that clip out, and then I'm gonna lift a little bit to get this bottom connector right here, and then we can fully remove our bumper. So now that we have our bumper removed from the truck, we gotta pull a few things off of our bumper. I'm gonna be starting with these outer sensors here. We've got a couple bolts to remove, and then we're gonna end up getting our whole harness out of here. So I'm gonna come over to the side of our bumper and take a 7mm socket to remove these two screws that are holding in our sensor. And then we can pull up on that. I'm gonna rotate this, remove this screw as well. And then on our connector, we have a red locking tab. So you can take a flathead screwdriver to pry back on that. And then we're gonna push in on the black tab and pull to disconnect our connector. So now I'm gonna start working on the wire harness. We've got two clips here that we're gonna need to pop out, and then we're gonna disconnect our parking sensors and our license plate light. So grab your clip remover tool, get under that clip and pop it out. Now for our parking sensors, we have a red locking tab. So once again, get your flathead, pull that out, pull off your connector, and then we also need to remove our parking sensors. So we have a tab on each side. We're just gonna pry that back and pull up on our sensor, pop that right out. Now I'm gonna do the same one for the one back here. It's a little hard to see, but you can get your flathead in through there to pop that red locking tab out, and then just push in on the black tab, and I'm going to pop that parking sensor out as well. Then for the license plate light, I'm just going to twist on the bulb socket to pop that out, take a 7mm socket to remove the screw, and then we're just going to angle that and slide it out. And then we're just gonna follow the clips along our wire harness and pop all of these out. And now we're just gonna keep following our harness and popping out all these clips. And then you can repeat that same process on the other side. I've already done that. So now we can fully remove our harness. So now we're gonna pop out our spare tire lock. I'm gonna take a flathead, I'm gonna pry in on this tab and this tab, pop that out. So now for our sensor, we've got these three clips. I'm just gonna take the opposite end of my clip remover tool and just give all three of these a tap to pop them out. And then you can slide that out. So now I've got our new bumper on the table. We're gonna start assembling it. I'm gonna start with our sensor that's gonna clip in right behind the license plate here. So now we're gonna slide our sensor bracket into place. Push all those clips so that they engage. And then we can get our spare tire lock, press that into place, And then grab your trailer hookups and just push those into place. Now we're gonna install our license plate lights. So slide this tab into place. And then we're using our combo bolt to thread into the rib nut. Tighten that down with the included 4mm Allen wrench. Do the same thing on the other side. Next, we're gonna install our parking sensors. Now, if your truck didn't come with parking sensors, we have these caps. You would just put them in from the other side and press them up into that hole there, and it'll cover it. Now, we did remove parking sensors. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pop off this seal around our sensor. We're gonna put this foam seal down. We're gonna put it into that hole. We've got these two tabs that are gonna click into the sides. And then we've got our cap and a spacer. We're gonna slide that right on top of our parking sensor, just like that. And you can repeat that process for the rest of your sensors. So now, if you had this sensor on your factory bumper, then we're gonna be installing this plastic cover in this space here. If you don't have one of these, we're gonna be installing a block-off plate. So we have Allen head bolts that are gonna go in from the front, and then flat washer, lock washer, nut on this side. Since we have this sensor, we're also going to have to install these two brackets here so that we can mount that sensor into place. So I'm gonna grab our cover, I'm gonna put one of my Allen head bolts through it, and then I'm gonna put it through the hole. I'll grab my bracket, and then get a flat washer, lock washer, and nut on there. And I'm just gonna do that for the rest of these bolts and my other bracket. And then we're gonna get our other bracket on this side. We've got that 90-ish degree bend one is gonna be on the outside, and the more aggressive bend is gonna be on the inside. Now I'm going to take the included Allen wrench to hold down my bolt and a 10mm socket to tighten down the nut. So now, before we had unbolted this sensor from this bracket to get easier access to the connector. So now we're just going to take these two tabs and slide them into these two holes, making sure that the side without the labels is facing you. And then we're gonna thread in that screw, tighten that down with a 7mm socket. And now we're gonna work on getting this into place. Now this is how it's gonna sit. It's gonna be really hard to get a flat washer and a nut behind here once this is installed. So I'm gonna take a bolt with a flat washer. I'm gonna put that through the hole. Then I'm gonna take my 10mm socket to thread it through. Now that way, I can just put this up through that bracket. It'll be a lot easier to put my hardware on. And then I'm gonna take that bolt and flat washer and go down through the other one. And then I'll get my flat washer and nut on from underneath. And now I'm gonna take a 10mm socket on a 1/4" ratchet to get up under here and hold on to that bolt while I tighten the nut. And then you can do that same thing on the other side. Now we're gonna install our mounting bolts. Now we've got two sets of holes here. This outer set of holes is gonna be for the 1500s, and then the inner set of holes is gonna be for the 25 and 3500s. So we're gonna take a bolt with a flat washer. I'm gonna kinda angle it in there and get a finger under there to hold it, and then spin on your retaining clip. Do the same thing with the other one. So now I've got my wire harness laid across the bumper. We're gonna plug in all of our connectors. So I'm gonna start with our bulb for the license plate light, twist that to the right to lock that into place. We're gonna have to use this extension harness on this first parking sensor. So I'm gonna go to the second and this connector for our sensor up here. So I wanna pass that connector down through this hole. I'll take this connector to plug into the parking sensor and then push in on that red locking tab. Pull your slack through to get this connector up to your sensor. Push that in until it clicks, and then press that red locking tab down into place. And then I've got my extension harness for this first parking sensor. So plug one end into the sensor, press down on the white locking tab, and then the other end of this connector is going to go to the connector on the harness. Press that in, press down on that red locking tab. So now I'm going to clean up all my wires and try to hide them where we don't have any gaps showing, where you'll see it when the bumper is installed. So I'm going to use these zip tie clips. They're going to stick down with double-sided tape. We'll run a zip tie through them and wrap our wire around it. So I'm going to put one right down here. We have a nice spot here where we don't have any holes. So I'm going to peel that double-sided tape off, stick that down right under our fog light surround, get my zip tie through there, and then I'm going to bunch up all of my excess wire, slide it down into that gap, connect my zip tie, tighten that down, make sure everything's back here nice and hidden, cut off the excess of your zip tie, and do that same thing on the other side. Now we're going to assemble our LED pods. So we're going to take the bracket and the bolt, slide the bolt through the hole at the top. The hex is going to sit in between these two slots to lock it into place. And then slide your bracket down into place. Take your Allen head bolt with a lock washer and thread that into that threaded insert in there. Before you fully tighten it down, do the same thing on the other side. And now we can get this mounted up in our bumper. So now in our fog light pocket, we've got these 3 slots. I'm gonna mount it up to the middle slot. So we have a slightly bigger hole here in our little hex shape pattern. I'm gonna be passing the connector through there. It's gonna be a little bit of a tight fit. Slide that through, and then the bolt is gonna go up into that slot, and you can reach around on the inside of the bumper to put your flat washer, lock washer, and nut. So now on the back, got a flat washer, lock washer, and nut that'll thread on there. So now on the back side of the bumper, we can see where I threaded on that flat washer, lock washer, and nut. And now grab a 14mm ratcheting wrench and tighten down that nut. Repeat that process on the other side. So now we have our little clips for the screws on our license plate. So just line these up with the hole and just press those down into place. So now I'm gonna move on to our wiring. I'm up in the engine bay. I've got my 2 connectors that are gonna go to the pods in the rear bumper. I'm gonna pass these down behind our AC lines, down towards the floor. I'm gonna pull them through until we've got our terminal connectors up next to our battery. So now we're gonna hook up our battery terminal connectors. Before we do anything, I'm gonna pop our inline fuse out of our positive cable. So just pop that cover up and then just wiggle that fuse out. We'll go back and reinstall that at the end. Now we need to pop this cover off of the positive terminal of the battery. So you've got a little clip on each side, and then you can pull that up. I'm gonna take a 13mm socket to remove this nut. I'm gonna add this terminal connector over that post and then reinstall my nut. Now drop that on, thread your nut back on, and tighten that back down. And I'm gonna switch to my 10mm socket for the negative. And then I can take my negative and slide it over that post and thread my nut back on. And then again, take your 10mm socket to tighten that down. And now I'm just gonna run our cable over this way. And I'm just gonna loosely put this back on for now. We're gonna have to put our fuse back in later, so I'm not gonna clip it down just yet. So now I'm gonna take my switch and run that over to the driver's side so we can pass that through the firewall. So I'm just gonna be following this wire harness right here. I'm gonna put a couple zip ties on here. That'll keep it nice and out of the way of anything moving and hot. Run the zip tie back behind that harness. Wrap my wire in it. I'm gonna put this wire on top of the harness there and give it a clean look. And then you can take a pair of scissors or diagonal cutters and cut off the excess of your zip tie. And now we're just gonna do a few of those working all the way across. And then once I'm over here by this bracket, I'm just gonna run my switch behind the harness, and we're gonna go down towards the grommet or right behind it. So now we're gonna have to pass our switch through this grommet and the firewall right here. And now it's super tight inside that grommet, so I'm gonna disconnect this at the connector. So just push in on the tab and pull it apart. That way we only have to slide this little connector through that grommet and not this big switch. So now I'm just gonna reach down, push my grommet back and in a little bit, feed my connector through, and then we'll go inside and pull that through. So now inside the cabin, we're gonna go down under the dash and find our connector. I'm gonna plug that in to our switch. Now you can mount the switch wherever you'd like. I'm probably gonna mount it right down here. So I'm gonna peel back the backing on the double-sided tape. Mount that up right at the bottom of the dash. Now I'm gonna bunch up my excess wire and tuck it back behind this little kick panel here. You wanna make sure that you're not running your wires behind the brake pedal. So now we're underneath the truck. We're gonna have to run our two connectors all the way back to our pods. So I'm gonna take this and run it over our body mounts to keep it nice and high and out of the way. Go through there, pull all my slack, and I'll throw a zip tie in here. So now I'm going to use these zip tie clips to put up on the floorboard so that we can run a zip tie through those and secure our wires. This is going to make sure they're not dangling down, no stick in the road or anything's going to catch them. So just peel the backing of your double-sided tape, stick it down onto the floorboard, grab a zip tie and pass it through. And then put your wires in there. Tighten down your zip tie and then cut off your excess. And now we can just keep doing that back until we hit our next body mount. So now we're back at our next body mount. So I'm gonna pass our connectors over there again. So now we're gonna work on the bottom of our bed here. So I'm gonna put another clip right up here. Put my zip tie through that clip. Feed my wires over. And now we're gonna take this back behind our fender liner and keep going on the bottom of the bed. It's gonna be really hard to get a camera angle back here, so we're just gonna repeat that same process we've been doing until we get to the back there. So now I'm at the back. I've got my wires popping out here. I wanna keep this away from my hot exhaust, so I'm gonna go up over our hitch here. Just get that connector back, guide it over, pull it through. I'll do the same thing with the other one. Now with one of these, I'm gonna do that same thing on the other side, bring it over to the other side so that we can plug it in over there. Now the last thing we need to do before we install our bumper is remove these support bars. We've got a 21mm nut at the top. So just get a 21mm socket on a swivel adapter and remove that nut. Do the same thing on the other side and then we can get our bumper mounted up. So now I've got my buddy, we're ready to lift up our bumper and get it installed. Before we slide our bolts through the holes in the frame horns, we're gonna connect those middle two connectors on that sensor right behind our license plate. So now we're putting our flat washers and nuts on the back of those studs. So now underneath, I'm gonna plug in our fog light connector first. And then I'm just gonna tuck this up and out of the way. Then I'm gonna grab a 19mm socket on the nut and an 18mm wrench on the bolt and tighten this down. I'm just gonna make sure that bolt's pulled all the way through. And I'm gonna slide my wrench up there and tighten that down. Gonna do that same thing on the other side. Now we can reinstall our main bumper connector. Now remember that once you connect this up, you want to push down on this red locking tab to lock it into place. So push it until you hear that click, and then push that red locking tab down. So now last thing we need to do is hop back into our engine bay and reinstall that fuse in the inline fuse. Push that down into place and close it up. And then we can reinstall our cover. And now we can plug our camera connectors and our trailer plug back in. Just push those on and get your trailer plug and clip that into place. So that'll wrap up this review and install of the Barricade HD Rear Bumper with LED fog lights for your 2020 and newer Sierra 2500 and 3500 HD. Thank you for watching, and for all things Sierra, keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.